The following transmission is a work of fiction. This is now tuned the Dead broadcast.
This is Field Coordinator Merrick Vance, call sign Hollowpine 7, broadcasting from the Eastern Ridge, approximately 40 kilometers above what used to be the Metro Corridor. I am moving on foot. I am wearing a recorder strapped to my chest because my hands need to stay free, and because I want whoever finds this to hear the air around me, not just my voice. It is roughly the 14th day since the cities went dark. I say roughly because my watch stopped about an hour after I crossed the second ridge, and I've stopped trusting the sun. The light does not behave the way it used to behave. I will get to that. Right now I'm recording because the relay tower I'm hiking toward is still transmitting. I can see it. It is a slim white needle pushed up out of the pines, and the warning light at the top is still blinking. And that should not be possible. There is no power grid beneath it. There is no operator. There is no maintenance crew. There is no fuel truck that has driven this access road in 2 weeks. And yet, the light is blinking, steady, patient. The same rhythm it had the day I came up here for my first contract 12 years ago. Something is keeping that tower alive. I am going to walk up to it. I am going to climb the service ladder. I am going to find out what is keeping it powered. And I am going to find out what it is sending. Because down in the valley behind me, on every dead radio I have passed in every dead farmhouse, you can still hear the cities calling. They are calling by name. They are calling mine. If you are listening to this, I need you to understand that I went looking for the source on purpose. The access road has not been maintained in the way you would expect. It is not overgrown. That is the first thing I noticed when I started climbing. After 2 weeks without a single human being driving up here, after 2 weeks of rain and wind and whatever else has been moving through these mountains, the gravel is still graded. The drainage ditches are still clear. There is a fresh tire impression in the soft shoulder near the second switchback, and the tread pattern does not match any vehicle I have ever serviced. I'm going to describe it because I want a record. The tread is a herringbone, but the angles are wrong. They lean the same direction on both sides, as if whatever made the print was not rolling, as if it was being dragged sideways, smoothly, with weight on it. I stepped around the print. I did not measure it. I am telling you this because I want you to know I am still making choices. The pines on this ridge are healthy. The undergrowth is healthy. A jay called from somewhere off to my left about 10 minutes ago, and I almost cried, because that was the first animal voice I've heard since I left the supply cache. The valley is quiet in a way that valleys are not supposed to be. Up here, the world is still doing what the world does. Birds, wind, the soft creak of trees that have stood through worse than us. I keep telling myself that whatever happened down there did not reach up here. I do not believe me. About 100 meters ahead, the road bends and the tower comes into full view. There is a small cinder block service building at its base. The door is open. I did not leave it open. The last technician up here was Kowalski. And Kowalski was the kind of man who locked a door behind him even when the building was on fire. I'm going to keep walking. If the transmission cuts, assume I reach the door. I reach the door. The interior is intact. That is the part I want you to hold on to. The interior of the service building is completely, perfectly intact. The logbook is open on the desk. The coffee mug next to it is upright. There is coffee in the mug. It is cold, but it is not evaporated, and it is not moldy. And it is not the consistency of something that has been sitting for 14 days in an unheated mountain shed. Someone has been refilling it. I want to be very clear about my reasoning, because I know how this sounds. The mug is 2/3 full. The surface tension is intact. There is no dust on the coffee. There is dust on the desk around the mug, but not on the rim of the mug, which means the mug has been lifted recently. I'm standing about 3 feet from a piece of evidence that someone was drinking coffee in this room within the last 24 hours. The logbook entry is dated today. I'm going to read it to you exactly as written, because I'm not going to interpret it for you. I want you to hear it the way I'm seeing it. The entry says, transmission nominal. Carrier wave stable, subject Vance approaching from Southern Access Road. Estimated arrival window confirmed. No deviation. Continue. My name is in the logbook. The handwriting is mine. I do not mean it looks like mine. I mean it is mine. I know my own letters. I know the way I cross my sevens. I know the way I round the bottom of my G. This is not an imitation. This is my hand, in my pen, on a page I did not write on. I am going to step back outside. I am going to stand in the sunlight for a minute. I am going to breathe. When I come back in, I am going to climb the tower, because the answer is not in this room. The answer is up there, in whatever is generating the carrier wave I cannot find a power source for. And I'm not going to read the rest of the logbook, not yet. The ladder is cold. The rungs are riveted steel, and they have been out here long enough to take on the temperature of the mountain. And the temperature of this mountain right now is wrong. It is too cold for the season. My breath is visible. The sun is in the western quarter of the sky, and the air should be holding the day's warmth, and it is not. I'm going up anyway. There are 142 rungs to the service platform. I have climbed this tower 9 times in my career. I know the count. I am counting now because counting is something I can do while my hands shake. At rung 60, the wind shifts. I want to describe what I mean by that, because wind shifting on a mountain is not unusual. What I mean is that the wind stopped completely all at once, the way a fan stops when you cut its power. And then, 3 seconds later, it started again, but from the opposite direction. Not a gust, not a gradient, a clean reversal, as if something very large had walked past me and the air was getting out of its way. I did not look down. I kept climbing. At rung 120, I started to hear it. The carrier wave. Not through a radio, through the steel. The tower itself is humming. I can feel it in the rungs, in my palms, in my teeth. It is a low, even tone. And underneath the tone there is something that sounds like a voice trying to form, the way a voice forms in the half second before a person speaks, the intake, the shaping, the readiness. It never finishes the word. It just keeps almost speaking. I am on the platform now. I am looking at the transmitter housing. The access panel is unscrewed. The screws are sitting in a neat row on top of the housing, lined up like teeth. I am looking inside the housing. There is no transmitter. I want to repeat that because it is the kind of sentence that the brain refuses to hold the first time. There is no transmitter inside the transmitter housing. The cabinet is empty. The coaxial feed lines run into the housing, and they run out the other side toward the antenna array. And in between there is nothing. No amplifier, no modulator, no power supply, no oscillator. The mounting brackets are bare, the bolt holes are empty. The cabinet is clean. There is no dust, no rust, no sign that anything was ever removed. The cabinet looks like it was manufactured empty. And yet the antenna is transmitting. The carrier wave is going out across this mountain and down into the valley, and across however much of the country still has a working receiver. And it is going out at full strength, and it is going out without a source. I'm going to sit down on the platform for a moment. I'm going to put my back against the railing. I'm going to think. Okay, Here is what I know. The cities went dark 14 days ago. The grid collapsed in a cascading failure that started in the northeast and reached the western coast within 90 minutes. Emergency services failed. Cellular networks failed. Hardline telephony failed. The internet failed in a way that the engineers I've spoken to do not understand, because the internet was not supposed to be able to fail that completely. We have always had redundancy. We have always had backup. The redundancy did not hold. The backup did not hold. Within 2 hours of the initial event, the entire civilian communications infrastructure of this continent was offline. And yet, for the past 14 days, on certain radios, in certain places, at certain times, you can still hear the cities. You can hear traffic. You can hear sirens. You can hear voices on what sound like talk shows, weather reports, sports broadcasts. You can hear them in cities I personally watched go silent on the night of the event. I have heard Pittsburgh. I have heard Tampa. I have heard a station from Halifax that has not legally existed since 1978. The cities are still calling. I came up here to find out who is answering. I need to back up. I need to tell you how I got involved, because if you are listening to this and the world is still functioning where you are, you deserve context. I am a field coordinator for a regional emergency broadcast network. My job, in normal times, was unglamorous. I drove between relay stations. I checked equipment. I filed reports. I climbed towers like this one and replaced parts that the weather had worn down. I was not important. I want that on the record. I was not important, and that is why I'm still alive. Because the people who were important were the first ones the cities called. 3 days after the event, when most of the country was still trying to understand that the lights were not coming back on, my supervisor called me on a satellite phone. Her name was Delia Hahn. She had been my supervisor for 9 years, and she was the most competent person I have ever worked with. And she sounded, on that call, like someone who had not slept in 72 hours and was holding herself together with procedure alone. She told me that the relay stations in our network were transmitting. All of them. Even the ones that had no power. Even the ones that had been decommissioned. Even the one in Crowmarsh that had been physically demolished in 2019. The foundation slab plowed under and seeded with grass. That one was transmitting too. Somehow. She told me that the transmissions were not coming from the equipment. The equipment was a vector, not a source. Something was using our towers the way a hand uses a glove. She told me to go to Holopine 7, specifically this tower. She said it was the closest one to the pattern's apparent origin. She said if anyone could get inside the signal and find out what it actually was, it was someone who knew the hardware well enough to recognize when the hardware was lying. I asked her what she meant by the signal's origin. She said, "The cities are not transmitting from the cities." Then she hung up, and I have not been able to reach her since. I had a portable receiver with me when I started up the mountain. It is a handheld unit, the kind you can clip to your belt with a small speaker and a dial that you can run through the AM and FM bands and the emergency frequencies. I have it with me now. I am holding it in my lap on this platform, and I am turning it on because I want you to hear what I have been hearing. I am turning the dial slowly. Static, static, static. A voice. A woman. She is reading what sounds like a traffic report. She is talking about a backup on the inbound expressway. She is naming streets I know. She is naming a city that has been dark for 14 days. Her voice is professional, calm, slightly bored, the way traffic reporters always sound at the end of a long shift. She mentions an accident at an intersection. She gives the cross streets. She tells listeners to seek an alternate route. There is no one to seek an alternate route. There are no listeners. There is no traffic. There is no accident. She is still talking. I am turning the dial. Static. A man. He is reading the weather. He says tomorrow will be partly cloudy with a high of 72. He says there is a chance of evening showers. He says, have a great night out there. He sounds genuinely friendly. He sounds like a person. I am turning the dial. Static. A talk show. 2 hosts. They are laughing about something. One of them is doing a bit. The other is the straight man. They are good at it. They have chemistry. The bit involves a celebrity I've heard of and a recent event I have never heard of. And the way they describe the event makes it sound like it happened last week, in a country that has not had functioning broadcasts for 2 weeks. I am turning the dial. Static. A voice says my name. Not as part of a sentence, just my name, Marek Vance. Clearly, calmly, in a voice I do not recognize. I am turning the dial faster now. Static. Static. My name again, on a different frequency. Same voice, same calm, like someone confirming an appointment. I am turning the receiver off. I am putting it back in my pack. I am not going to turn it on again unless I have to. There is a pattern. I want to talk about the pattern, because the pattern is the part that has been keeping me functional. As long as there is a pattern, I am dealing with a phenomenon. As long as I am dealing with a phenomenon, I am still a technician. As long as I am still a technician, I have a job to do, and I can do my job. The pattern is this. The broadcasts always sound normal at first. Traffic, weather, music, talk. The texture is right. The cadence is right. The production values are right. If you tuned in for 10 seconds, you would not notice anything wrong. You would assume you had found a working station. The wrongness only appears with time. The traffic reports describe traffic that does not exist. The weather reports describe weather that does not match the sky. The talk shows reference events that did not happen. The music is correct on the surface, but the songs have small alterations. A lyric is changed. A verse is missing. The drummer is half a beat off in a way that does not register until your stomach does. And every broadcast, eventually, names someone. A listener, by name. I have been comparing notes with the other field coordinators in our network. Or I was, before the satellite phones stopped working. We compiled a list of every name we had personally heard. The names were not random. The names belonged to people who had been in the cities on the night of the event. The names belonged to people we knew had gone dark with the grid. The broadcasts are reading a roster. That is the conclusion I came to 4 days ago, and I have not been able to unmake it. The broadcasts are reading a roster of the people who were in the cities when the cities went dark. And they are reading the roster slowly, methodically, one name at a time, on rotation, across thousands of frequencies and thousands of dead towers and one functional handheld receiver clipped to a man on a mountain. My name should not be on that roster. I was not in any of the cities. I was at the supply cache, 60 kilometers from the nearest urban center, when the lights went out. But the broadcasts are reading my name, which means either the roster is not what I think it is, or I was in a city I do not remember being in, or something is adding names to the roster as it goes. I do not know which of those is worse. I climbed down from the platform about 20 minutes ago. I am back in the service building. I am sitting at the desk. The coffee mug is still there. The dust pattern around it is unchanged. No one has come in here in the time I was gone. I'm going to read the rest of the logbook now. I told myself I would not, but I have to, because the logbook is the only thing in this building that has new information in it. And I need new information more than I need comfort. The entries before today are in 3 different hands. Kowalski's, a technician named Reyes, who I overlapped with for 6 years. And a third hand I do not recognize. The third hand starts appearing about 8 months ago, in entries that should have been Kowalski's, on days I know Kowalski was on shift, because I was the one who scheduled him. The third hand writes in the same format as the others. Transmission nominal, carrier wave stable, routine maintenance, filter change. The entries are unremarkable. They are perfectly unremarkable. The way someone trying very hard to seem like they belong is unremarkable. I am turning the pages forward. I am looking for the night of the event. The entry for that night exists. It is in the third hand. It is dated correctly. It is time-stamped to the minute the grid collapsed. The entry says, "Cities received. Intake complete. Transmission begins." I want to sit with that sentence for a moment. Cities received. Not cities lost. Not cities offline. Cities received. As if the cities were a delivery. As if something had been waiting for them. The entries after that night are in the third hand only. Kowalski's hand stops on the night of the event. Reyes's hand stopped months earlier, and I never noticed, because Reyes had been transferred to a different region. Except now, I am trying to remember when he was transferred, and I cannot remember signing the paperwork. I am trying to remember what Reyes looked like. I cannot. I have worked with this man for 6 years, and I cannot picture his face. I am going to close the logbook now. I am going to leave this building. I am going to start back down the access road, because whatever I came up here to find, I have found enough of it. I am outside. The light is wrong. I want to describe this carefully, because I've been putting it off, and I cannot put it off any longer. The sun is in the western quarter of the sky. It has been in the western quarter of the sky since I arrived at the tower, and I arrived at the tower at what I believed was mid-afternoon. And I have been here for at least 3 hours. The sun has not moved. The shadows have not lengthened. The temperature has dropped, but the light has not changed. The sun is held in place. I'm going to start walking. I am going to walk down the access road. I am going to keep moving until either the sun moves or I reach the valley, whichever comes first. The wind is still wrong. The wind is moving in a slow, regular pattern, in and out like breath. Not gusting, not shifting, breathing. I'm going to stop describing the wind. I'm going to walk. The recorder is still on. I am going to keep talking, because the sound of my own voice is the only proof I have that I am still the one making decisions. If the recording cuts off, do not assume I've been hurt. Assume the recorder has been interfered with. The recorder has been the most reliable thing I own, and I do not trust it anymore. I do not trust the road, either. The tire track is gone. I am looking right at the soft shoulder where I stepped around it, and the print is not there. The shoulder is undisturbed. Something walked back over its own trail. I am walking faster. I made it down to the valley floor in what my watch tells me was 40 minutes and what my legs tell me was several hours. The watch is running again. I do not know when it started running. The time it shows is reasonable. The time it shows does not match the position of the sun, which is now low on the horizon in the way a sun is supposed to be low on the horizon, settling, reddening, behaving. I am going to take the watch as a working instrument until it gives me a reason not to. There is a farmhouse about a half-kilometer ahead. I passed it on my way up the mountain. It was empty then. The door was closed. The windows were intact. There were no vehicles in the drive. I noted it as a possible shelter and kept moving. The door is open now. I am going to approach it carefully. I am going to call out before I enter. I am going to give whoever is inside the chance to identify themselves. I am calling out. Hello? Hollow Pine 7, field coordinator. Is anyone inside? Nothing. I am stepping onto the porch. The porch boards are dry. There has been no rain in the last 40 minutes, which is consistent with my time on the mountain. But the air smells like rain, the way it smells right after a storm passes. Petrichor, wet earth. There is no wet earth. The ground is dust. I am at the door. I am stepping inside. The interior of the farmhouse is exactly the way you would expect the interior of a farmhouse to be if the family who lived there had stepped out 15 minutes ago. There is a kitchen. There are dishes drying on a rack. There is a television in the front room. And the television is on. And the television is showing what appears to be a local news broadcast from the city of Burlington. And Burlington has been dark for 14 days. A woman on the screen is reading the news. She is talking about a city council vote. She is talking about a restaurant opening downtown. She is talking about a community fundraiser this weekend. She is well lit, well framed, professional. The studio behind her looks correct. There is a graphic in the lower third with the date. The date is today. I am standing in a farmhouse in a valley where no one has lived in 14 days, watching a news broadcast from a dead city, and the broadcast is current. The woman looks up from her papers. She looks at the camera. She smiles. The small professional smile that anchors do before they hand off to a commercial. She says, "And now a message for our viewer in the valley." She is looking at me. I am going to keep recording. I am going to keep my hands at my sides. I am not going to turn off the television, because I do not know what turning off the television will do. The woman on the screen is still looking at me. She is still smiling. The smile is not threatening. The smile is the smile of a professional broadcaster who has been told to deliver a message and is delivering it with the warmth her job requires. She says, "Marek, we are very glad you came down from the tower." She uses my first name. She pronounces it correctly. The double R, the soft K at the end. The way my mother used to say it before she switched to the shortened version everyone else used. She says, "We have been trying to reach you for a long time. The tower was the easiest place. We left you the logbook because we wanted you to understand we were not strangers. The handwriting was a courtesy. We did not want to alarm you with something unfamiliar." She says, "We know you have questions. We will answer the ones we can." She pauses. The pause is the natural pause of live television, a half second of breath, a beat for the audience to catch up. She says, "The cities are not lost. The cities are not destroyed. The cities have been moved. The people who are in them are with us now. They are safe. They are well. They are being looked after. The broadcasts you have been hearing are real broadcasts. They are coming from the cities, in the place where the cities are now. We are transmitting them back through the towers, because we want the people who remained outside to know that their loved ones are accounted for." She says, "We are reading the roster because we want you to know who is with us. We are not threatening you with the roster. We are reassuring you. The roster is a kindness." She says, "Your name is on the roster because we would like you to join the others. You are one of the last technicians who knows the tower network. We need someone who understands the hardware. The work we are doing requires a human hand. We are asking, not taking. We have always been asking." She says, "We will leave the door open. We will leave the road clear. When you are ready, walk west. The path will be obvious. You will not be harmed in transit. You will not be alone when you arrive." She says, "Take your time." The broadcast cuts to a commercial. The commercial is for a brand of coffee I have never heard of. I am outside the farmhouse. I am sitting on the porch steps. The recorder is on. My hands are shaking. I am going to talk through this, because if I do not talk through this, I am going to make a decision I have not earned the right to make yet. Let me state what I just experienced plainly for the record. A television in an abandoned farmhouse, with no electricity that I could detect, displayed a live broadcast in which a woman who knew my name asked me to walk west and join an unspecified group of people in an unspecified location. She framed this request as a kindness. She framed the disappearance of every major city on this continent as a relocation. She framed 2 weeks of dead air and dead grids and dead phones as a customer service issue she was now resolving. That is what just happened. I do not believe her. I want to be clear about why. I do not believe her because the explanation is too clean. The explanation accounts for everything I have been afraid of and resolves all of it in my favor. The cities are fine. The people are fine. The broadcasts are reassurance. I personally am being invited to join my friends and colleagues in a safe place. It is the exact story I would want to be true. And in my experience, the exact story you want to be true is the story that is being told to you on purpose. But I also cannot rule it out. That is the part I am struggling with. I cannot rule it out. I have no way to verify what is on the other side of West. I have no way to confirm or deny that Delia Hahn is alive, that Kowalski is alive, that Reyes, whose face I cannot remember, is alive. I have no way to know whether walking west leads to my colleagues or to whatever wrote in my handwriting in the logbook. The only way to find out is to walk. I am not going to walk yet. I am going to keep moving south. I am going to find another human being. If there is a single living person left in this valley who is not on a screen, I need to find them, because I cannot make this decision alone. I will not make this decision alone. I have been walking south for what my watch says is 2 hours. The sun has set properly. The stars have come out properly. I do not recognize the constellations. But I'm going to set that aside, because I have a finite amount of fear available to me tonight, and I am budgeting it carefully. There is a light ahead. It is yellow. It is not the cold blue-white of an LED or the steady glow of a screen. It is the warm flicker of a kerosene lantern. And a kerosene lantern is one of the most beautifully ordinary things I can imagine right now. I am calling out. Hello? Hollow Pine 7, friendly, coming up the road. Please respond. A voice answers. A man. He sounds tired. He sounds real. He says, "Come slow, hands where I can see them." And I am going to oblige him because his caution is the most reassuring thing I have heard in 2 weeks. I am at the edge of his property. He's on the porch of a small cabin. He has a rifle across his knees. He is not pointing it at me. He is keeping it available. I understand the gesture. I have made the gesture myself in different circumstances, with different tools. He is older than me, maybe 60, maybe more. He has a beard that has gone past the point of being a choice. He is wearing a wool shirt and work pants and boots that have been resoled at least twice. He says, "You came down from the tower." I say yes. He says, "You talked to one of them." I say, "On a television, in the farmhouse." He nods. He does not seem surprised. He sets the rifle down, leans it against the porch rail. He says, "I have been waiting for someone to come down the road." I was starting to think no one would. My name is Halvar. I have lived in this valley for 31 years. I am the last person here who is still me. I ask him what he means. He says the others left. About a week ago, they walked west. They went one at a time, over 3 days. and none of them came back, and none of them said goodbye, and none of them packed a bag. He says, I watched my neighbor Sarah walk past my fence. She did not see me. She was smiling. She was carrying nothing. She had no shoes on. He says, before she walked, she watched her television for a long time. He says, I unplugged mine on the second day. I cut the wires. I put it in the root cellar. I have not heard the woman. He says, sit down. You look like you need to sit down. I sit down. Halvar makes me tea. He uses a kettle on a wood stove. The tea is real tea. The water is from a well. The cup is chipped on one side and warm in my hands. And for the first time in 14 days, I'm holding something that I'm completely certain is what it appears to be. He talks while the tea steeps. He says, I do not know what they are. I do not pretend to. I am not a scientist. I am not a religious man. I have spent 31 years in this valley because I do not like being told things. And I'm not going to start telling you things now. But I have noticed some patterns. You're a technician. You like patterns. I will tell you what I have noticed, and you can do with it what you want. He says, the broadcast started 2 days after the cities went dark. They came on every receiver in this valley at the same time. I know because I went house to house. I was checking on people. The radios were all playing the same station for the first hour. After that, they diverged. After that, each radio played a different station, and the stations always seemed to know who was listening. He says, the televisions came on 3 days after that. Always in empty rooms first. People would walk into their living rooms and find the television on, showing a broadcast that addressed them by name. Not all at once. One person at a time. The first time, you laugh it off. The second time, you sit down. The third time, you start to listen. He says, the people who listened the longest were the ones who walked west. He says, I do not know what is west. I have not gone. I have not sent a dog. I tried to send a letter, written and tied to a stone, throwing it as far down the western road as I could throw it. And the stone landed, and the letter was gone the next morning. And 3 nights later, I heard a voice in my yard reading the letter back to me, in my own voice, with the letter slightly edited to sound more like a request than a question. He says, that is when I unplugged the television. He says, I think they are negotiating. I think the cities were the first offer. I think the broadcasts are the second offer. I think the invitation is the third offer. I do not know what the fourth offer is. I do not want to find out. He pours my tea. He says, drink. Then we will decide what to do. I drank the tea. I slept 4 hours on Halvar's floor, the first real sleep in 11 days. I dreamed, and I do not want to talk about the dreams, except to say that in the dreams I was not myself. And being not myself was comfortable, and the comfort was the part that woke me up. When I sat up, Halvar was already awake. He was at the window. He had his rifle across his lap again. He did not turn around. He said, the road has changed. I went to the window. The road that ran past his cabin had been a dirt road. 2 ruts, a center hump of grass, the kind of road that runs through every rural valley in this country. Yesterday, it had been that road. This morning, it was paved. Asphalt, smooth, fresh. The kind of paving job that takes a crew of 12 in 3 days, and a paver and a roller and a foreman with a clipboard. And there had been no crew and no machines and no clipboard. The road went west. The road had always gone west, but it had also gone south and east and connected to a county road. This morning, the southern branch and the eastern branch were gone. The road only went west now. It only went one direction. Halvar said, they are making it easier. I said, I am going to walk it. He turned around. He looked at me for a long moment. He did not argue. He did not try to stop me. He did not offer to come with me. He just looked at me. And then he nodded. Slowly. The way a man nods when he's already had this conversation with himself in the dark. He said, "If you come back the same way. Do not approach the cabin from any other direction. If you come at me from the east or the south, I will not believe it is you." He said, "If you do not come back by sundown, I am going to assume you are with them. And I will not open the door to you, no matter what you sound like." He said, "Take this." He gave me a small notebook and a pencil. He said, "Write things down. Write your own name on every page before you go. If the page is in a different hand when you come back, you will know." I took the notebook. I wrote my name on the first 10 pages. The handwriting was mine. I knew it was mine because I felt it being mine. In my fingers, in the cramp of the small muscle at the base of my thumb. I started walking west. The asphalt is warm. That is the first thing. The asphalt is warm in a way that paved roads are warm in midsummer, when the sun has been on them for hours. And the sun has not been on this road for hours. The sun has been up for 40 minutes. The asphalt should be cool. The asphalt should be cold. The asphalt is radiating a soft, even heat that I can feel through my boots. I am walking on something that is not what it appears to be. I keep walking. The road bends gently. The valley opens. I can see further west than I should be able to see from this position, which is the thing I am noting and not investigating, because investigating it would require me to stop. And I have decided that I am not going to stop until I see what is at the end of this road. I pass a mailbox. It is at the edge of what used to be someone's property. The mailbox is open. There is mail inside. The mail is addressed to me. Not to my address. To me, by name, at this mailbox, in this valley, on a road that did not exist yesterday. I do not take the mail. I keep walking. I pass a bench. It is at the side of the road, in a small cleared area, as if someone had decided that travelers on this route might need to rest. The bench is freshly painted. There is a brass plaque on it. The plaque has my name on it. The dates on the plaque are my birth year and the current year. I do not sit on the bench. I keep walking. I pass a small wooden sign at a fork in the road. The sign has 2 arrows. Both arrows point west. One says, "The cities." The other says, "The others." I do not understand the distinction, but I understand that I am being offered a choice. And I understand that being offered a choice is a technique. And I understand that the most important thing I can do right now is not choose either option. I step off the road. I walk parallel to it, through the grass about 10 meters to the north. The grass is the right kind of grass for this valley. The insects are the right kind of insects. A grasshopper jumps away from my boot, startled, alive, ordinary. The road continues to my left. I continue beside it. The signs and the benches and the mailboxes do not appear in the grass. They only appear on the road. The road is a stage. The grass is backstage. I'm going to stay backstage as long as I can. I keep walking west. After about 20 minutes, I see the city. It is sitting in the valley ahead of me, where no city has ever been. And it is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen. And that is the problem. The city is laid out in a shallow bowl of the valley floor. It is medium-sized, skyline modest. A river running through it that I do not recognize. There are bridges over the river. There are parks. There are neighborhoods with small houses and larger neighborhoods with apartment buildings. There is a downtown with a clock tower. The clock tower has the correct time. The city is composed of fragments of cities I know. I want to be precise about this, because precision is the only tool I have left. The downtown has the proportions of Burlington, but the brickwork of Pittsburgh. The river bend is from Tampa. The park I can see from this distance, with its bandshell and its pond, is a park I walked through as a child in a city my family left when I was 8. And I have not thought about that park in 30 years. And it is here, perfectly. The bandshell painted the same green it was painted in 1993. The city is a composite. It is made of pieces of every city that went dark, arranged in a way that feels like a single city if you do not look too closely. There are people in the streets. I can see them from here. They are walking. They are crossing intersections. They are sitting on benches. They are doing what people do in a city on an ordinary morning. They are not panicked. They are not searching for loved ones. They are not behaving like people who have been through an event. They are behaving like people who have always been here. I am crouched in the grass at the edge of the valley. I am about 1 kilometer from the nearest building. I have a pair of small binoculars in my pack, the kind I carry for tower inspections. And I'm using them now to look more closely. The people are real. I mean that they have weight. They cast shadows. They interact with each other. 2 of them are having a conversation on a corner, and one of them is laughing, and the laugh is a real laugh. And the body that is laughing is moving the way a body moves when it laughs. I recognize one of them. Delia Hahn, my supervisor. She is standing outside what appears to be a cafe. She is holding a paper cup. She is wearing the coat she always wore in the field. She is talking to someone whose back is to me. She is smiling. She looks well. She looks better than well. She looks rested, in a way she had not looked in years. The deep tiredness she carried in her face is gone. She is standing the way she used to stand when I first met her, before the job ground the posture out of her. I want to call out to her. I do not call out to her. Because the person she is talking to has just turned around, and the person she is talking to is me. I am going to describe what I am seeing, because if I do not describe it, I'm going to refuse to have seen it. There is a man standing on a sidewalk in a city that should not exist, talking to my supervisor. And the man is me. He is wearing my coat. He is wearing my boots. He has my pack on the ground next to him, though my pack is on the ground next to me, here, in the grass. He is the right height. He is the right build. He is gesturing with his hands the way I gesture with my hands when I'm explaining something technical. And Delia is nodding. And the nod is the small, focused nod she does when she is taking in information. He is doing my job. He is being me at the job. I am watching, through binoculars, a version of myself who walked west. I'm trying to think about this clearly. I'm trying not to panic. I am a technician. I work with signals and copies and duplicates. I know what an echo is. I know what a recording is. I know what a copy is. This is not a copy. A copy does not have a coffee cup in its hand at the same temperature as the air around it. A copy does not lean its weight onto one leg when it talks. A copy does not glance up at the sky when a bird passes overhead and follow the bird with its eyes, the way I follow birds with my eyes. The small habit I've had since I was a child. That is me. Either that is me, or what I have always called me has been a much smaller thing than I assumed. And the thing standing on that sidewalk is also me. And we can both exist. And the city in the valley is full of people for whom this is true. I think about the logbook. I think about my handwriting in a hand I did not move. I think about the roster. I think about Delia saying, on a satellite phone, the cities are not transmitting from the cities. I think about the woman on the television saying, your name is on the roster because we would like you to join the others. I'm beginning to understand what the offer was. The offer was not relocation. The offer was duplication. The offer was, we have made a version of your life that works in a city that does not break, with the people you love restored to the shape they had before the work ground them down. And all you have to do is walk west and step into it. The other me on the sidewalk has done that. The other me on the sidewalk looks happy. I'm still in the grass. I have lowered the binoculars. I am breathing slowly. I am holding the notebook Halvar gave me. I am looking at the pages with my name on them, written in my hand, 10 times. The pages are unchanged. The handwriting is mine. I am still mine. I want to walk in. I want to be very honest about this, because I owe the recording honesty, if I owe it anything. I want to walk into the city. I want to set down the pack. I want to drink the coffee. I want to stand on the sidewalk and talk to Delia about whatever the other me is talking to her about. I want to sleep in a bed in a building that has heat and water. I want to stop being afraid. The wanting is the offer. That is what I keep coming back to. The wanting is the offer. The city is not threatening me. The woman on the television was not threatening me. The road was not threatening me. None of this has ever been threatening. The whole event, from the night the cities went dark to this morning, has been an extended, patient, well-produced act of seduction. And I do not know what is doing the seducing. I do not know what made the city. I do not know what is wearing my face on that sidewalk. I do not know whether the Delia in the city is the Delia who called me on the satellite phone, or a Delia made of the same material as the road and the bench and the plaque with my name on it. I do not know whether walking into the city ends me or saves me. And because I do not know, I am not walking in. I am going to back out of this valley. I am going to walk in the grass, parallel to the road, the way I came. I am going to return to Halvar's cabin before sundown. I'm going to tell him what I saw. I'm going to write it down in the notebook in my own hand, and let him read it and confirm it is in my hand. I'm going to do all of this because I'm a technician, and a technician's first rule is, do not power on a system you do not understand. The system is asking to be powered on through me. I am declining. I made it back to Halvar's cabin 20 minutes before sundown. I want to record that because I told him I would, and because the fact that I made it back at all is the first promise I have kept to another human being in 2 weeks. He saw me coming from a long way off. He was on the porch. The rifle was across his lap. He watched me walk up the road, and when I was about 50 meters out, he stood up and walked to the edge of the porch and waited. He said, "Stop there." I stopped. He said, "What did I tell you to take with you when you left?" I held up the notebook. He said, "Open it. Show me the first page." I opened it. I showed him the first page. My name, 10 times, in my hand. He said, "Write your name on the next blank page. Now, while I'm watching." I wrote my name on the next blank page. My hand cramped at the base of the thumb in the small, familiar way. The letters came out in my letters. He looked at the page for a long time. He looked at me. He stepped down off the porch. He met me in the yard. He did not hug me. He did not shake my hand. He just put his hand on my shoulder briefly, the way a man does when he wants you to know he is glad you are alive, but is not going to make a production of it. He said, "Come inside. Tell me everything." I told him everything. I told him about the road, the mailbox, the bench, the sign, the city in the bowl of the valley, the version of me on the sidewalk. I told him about Delia. I told him about the coffee cup and the bird and the gesture with the hands. I told him about wanting to walk in. He listened without interrupting. He made tea. He poured it for me. He sat across the table. When I was done, he was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You did the right thing." He said it without weight. He said it the way you say a true thing that does not need to be argued. He said it, and then he stood up, and he went to the wood stove and added a log. And the small, ordinary act of adding a log to a fire was the closest thing to grace I have experienced since this began. We did not talk much more that night. The broadcasts changed the next morning. I want to be careful describing this, because the change was subtle, and the subtlety was the point. Halvar still had no functioning radio. He had unplugged everything, but I had my handheld receiver, and I made the decision, against my better judgment, to turn it on for 30 seconds at sunrise, because I needed to know what they were doing now that I had not walked in. I turned the dial. Static, a man's voice. He was reading what sounded like a personal letter. The letter was addressed to a woman named Aileen. The letter was asking Aileen to please come home, that the family was waiting, that the house was warm, that there was soup on the stove. The man's voice was breaking slightly at the edges. He was a husband. He was reading a husband's letter to a wife. The letter ended. The voice did not stop. The voice began another letter, addressed to a man named Peter. Same general tone, same general request. Come home. The family is waiting. The house is warm. The voice read for as long as I was willing to listen. It read letter after letter. It addressed Aileen and Peter and Thomas and Sunita and Reginald and Marcy and 100 other names I did not know. The roster had changed. The roster was no longer reading names of the people who had been in the cities on the night of the event. The roster was reading names of the people who had not gone west. The roster was reading the holdouts. The roster was reading the ones, like me, like Halvar, who had stayed. The broadcasts were no longer reassurance. The broadcasts were recruitment. I turned the receiver off. I did not hear my name in the 30 seconds I listened. I do not know what to make of that. It could mean that they have stopped calling for me. It could mean they have already gotten the version of me they wanted, on the sidewalk, in the city, with Delia and the coffee cup. It could mean I'm no longer being recruited because I have already, in some sense that I do not understand, been counted. I want to believe it means they have stopped calling. I'm going to act as if it means the other thing. I am going to keep the receiver off. I am going to keep writing my name in the notebook every morning. On the 4th day at the cabin, Halvar told me he was going to walk west. I want to record his reasoning because it was his, and it was honest, and I do not want to flatten it into my own feelings about it. He said, "I have lived in this valley for 31 years. The valley is empty. The people I knew are gone. My wife died 11 years ago, and she is buried at the edge of my property, and I have not had a conversation with anyone but you in 14 days. And before you, I had not had a conversation with anyone in 8 months, because the nearest neighbor had moved, and I had not gotten around to going up the road to meet the new one." He said, "I am 67 years old. I have a bad hip and a worse knee. I have enough firewood for one more winter if I'm careful, and I'm not always careful. And after this winter, I'm going to be alone in a valley with no firewood and no neighbors and no road that goes anywhere but west." He said, "I am not walking in because they have convinced me. I want you to understand that. I have not been seduced. I have not watched the television. I have not heard the woman. He said, I am walking in because the alternative is dying alone, in a place where no one will find my body. And I have decided I would rather walk into a thing I do not understand than wait for a thing I do understand. He said, I am not asking you to come with me. I think you should stay. I think you have a job to do that I do not have. You are younger. You have hands that know the towers. If anyone is going to figure out what this is and what to do about it, it is more likely to be you than me. He said, take the cabin, take the well, take the firewood, take the rifle. I will not need any of it, he said. If I come back, I will come back the same way I leave. And you can decide for yourself whether to open the door. I did not try to stop him. He left at sunrise the next morning. I watched him walk up the road until he was a small, dark figure against the asphalt. And then I watched him until he was a point. And then I watched the point until it was nothing. And then I watched the empty road for another hour because I did not know what else to do. He did not come back. I did not expect him to. I have been in the cabin for 6 days now. I am keeping the recorder running for a small portion of each day, because the recorder is the only listener I have. And because I have decided that someone, eventually, is going to find this. And they should know what one person did during this. Here is what I am doing. I wake up at sunrise. I write my name in the notebook. I check the handwriting. The handwriting has been mine every morning. I make tea on the wood stove. I drink it slowly. I eat what Halvar left me, which is more than I expected and less than I will need by midwinter. I do not turn on the receiver. I walk the perimeter of the property twice a day. I check the road. The road remains paved. The road remains westbound only. The southern and eastern branches have not returned. I check Halvar's wife's grave at the edge of the property. It is undisturbed. The headstone is the same headstone it was on the first day I saw it. I have come to find this reassuring in a way I cannot fully justify. I have not heard the woman. I have not seen another television. I have not seen another version of myself. The valley is quiet. The valley is, for the first time in 2 weeks, behaving like a valley. The wind moves naturally. The sun moves naturally. The stars at night are still constellations I do not recognize. But I have stopped trying to make them familiar, and I have started learning the new ones. I have learned 3 new constellations. I have given them names. The names are mine. The names are written in the notebook, in my handwriting, on a page that has not been altered. This is what holding the line looks like. This is not heroism. This is just refusal. I want to talk finally about why I've been recording. I have been recording because I do not know how long I will remain myself. That is the honest answer. I have been recording because every morning I write my name in the notebook and check the handwriting. And every morning the handwriting is mine. And I do not know how many more mornings that will be true. The broadcasts have stopped calling my name on the receiver, but the broadcasts can be turned off, and the broadcasts can be ignored, and the broadcasts are not the only way they reach. There was handwriting in the logbook in my hand. There was a man on a sidewalk in my coat. There are versions of me out there that I did not consent to. And I do not know whether the existence of those versions weakens the version of me that is here. I am recording because I want there to be a record of the choice. The choice not to walk in. The choice to stay. The choice to refuse the offer, not because the offer was bad, but because I did not know what I was agreeing to. I want it on the record that someone, in this valley, on this mountain, in this country, on this continent, was asked to come west and stayed. I want the next person who finds this cabin to know that staying was possible. I want them to know it was lonely. I want them to know it was cold. I want them to know that there were mornings I almost walked west. And I did not. And the not walking was the whole of my work that day. I want them to know that this is what was left of the human project here at the end. A man, a cabin, a notebook, a name written in a hand that was still his. I turned the receiver on this morning. I want to explain why. I've been refusing it for 30 days. I've been holding the line. But this morning, when I woke up, the road outside the cabin had a second branch again. The southern branch had returned. It was dirt. It was rutted. It was the road that had always been there before the paving. The road was offering me a way out that was not west. I did not trust it. I turned on the receiver to see if the broadcasts had changed again, because the broadcasts have always been the most honest signal of what they want. I turned the dial. Static, static, static. No voice, no traffic report, no weather, no talk show, no letter, no roster, no name. Just static on every frequency, all the way across the band. I sat with the static for a long time. I sat with it until I understood what it meant. They have stopped broadcasting. I do not know whether that means they have given up on this valley. I do not know whether it means they have finished recruiting and the people who did not walk west are now beneath their notice. I do not know whether it means something is wrong on their end. That the city in the bowl of the valley has failed in some way I cannot see from here. That the project, whatever it was, has collapsed. I do not know whether the southern road is a trap or a gift. I do not know whether to take it. I am sitting on the porch. The receiver is on. The static is the only voice left. I have decided. I am going to take the southern road. I want to record my reasoning, because I owe the recording reasoning if I owe it anything. I am going to take the southern road because the broadcasts have stopped, and the silence is information. And the information says that whatever was happening here is no longer happening here at the same intensity. I am going to take the southern road because Halvar's cabin has firewood for one winter, and I do not have a second winter in me alone. And I'm being honest about that. I'm going to take the southern road because there might be other people, other holdouts, other men in other cabins with other notebooks. There might be a Halvar 2 valleys over who unplugged his television on the second day. There might be a woman who heard the broadcasts and refused to walk. There might be a child whose parents stayed. If there are, I want to find them. I want to put my notebook next to their notebook. I want to compare handwriting. I want to say my name out loud to a person who knows it is mine. That is what I'm going to do. I am going to take the rifle. I'm going to take the notebook. I'm going to take the recorder, because I do not know yet whether this is the last transmission or only the latest one. This is Marek Vance, call sign Hollowpine 7, recording from the porch of a cabin in a valley in the eastern range, on what my watch says is the 44th day since the cities went dark. I'm about to start walking south. If you find this recording, I want you to know a few things. The cities are not gone. The cities have been moved, or copied, or rebuilt, in a place I have seen but cannot describe to your satisfaction. The people in them are versions of the people we knew. I do not know whether they are the originals. I do not know whether the question of originals still applies. You will be invited to walk west. You may be invited gently. You may be invited by someone who looks like a person you loved. You may be invited by a version of yourself who looks happier than you remember being. You do not have to go. That is the only thing I learned in 14 days on a mountain and 30 days in a cabin that I think is worth passing on. You do not have to go. The invitation is real, but so is the refusal. If you stay, write your name down every morning. Check the handwriting. Hold the line. Hollow Pine 7, signing off.